All right, let's get started. We're going to talk about, last week we talked about designing your website. This week we're going to pick up in the same spot. I'm going to rehearse some of those things that we talked about last week because we're moving to those supplemental pages. We're going from the home page to those supplemental pages. And as we do that, I just want to go back and rehearse some of those things so that we can kind of drive that point home that it's really, really important that your website is easy for people so they don't have to think. We talked about Don't Make Me Think last week. We talked about the book Don't Make Me Think. We want to make sure that we've practiced that Don't Make Me Think principle as we do this. So we talked about usability considerations. We talked about what you're going to need, and we're going to use those same documents today. As a matter of fact, interestingly enough, in these two pages right here, that brand brief and that brand guideline document that you have become even more important than they do for your homepage. Again, it's consistency. It's creating that model so that people know exactly what you do and exactly how you do it, and they don't have to think. Okay, remind me again. Don't make me think. Again, this is I kind of like this little visual right here. Make things very, very obvious so that it requires very little thought. Okay, make every page self-evident. We're going to do that with the other three pages that we talk about today. And make everything obvious. Don't hide it. Don't make it difficult to get. Make things self-explanatory. And I gave you a little rule last week that anytime you have to define a term, use the definition. Don't use the term. Keep things as simple as possible. Okay. If people don't get it, they're going to bounce. And I'll never forget the first guy that trained me in website development said, you are 3 seconds away from oblivion. Now, I don't know how he measured the 3 seconds, but the point's well taken that sometime in about 3 seconds, people make a decision, or some people say it's 7 seconds. It doesn't make any difference, whatever number you throw on there. Remember, that one mouse click and it's now oblivion. You have been lost in the space of 8 gazillion other websites that are on the internet. Okay. People scan, they don't read because we're on a mission. We don't need to read everything. We're really good at scanning. We've become professional scanners, and your whole page is not intended to be a blog. Let's fly through this as quickly as we can. We don't go through the entire site. We usually park at the first reasonable option. And that's really what you want people to do. We don't figure things out. We power through them. The bottom line is no matter how much text and information that you add to your site, people will still act as if your website's a billboard. And what they're looking for is next exit. They're looking for what that very next thing that they need to do. And you need to take them on that journey in a way that makes perfect sense for them, that is clearly obvious so that they know what to do next. And I gave you these principles: design like a billboard, use conventions. We talked about what those conventions are, making sure you have your logo on the left-hand side, your menu on the across the top, and on the going to the right. And you just use those normal conventions. Use the plain language of the reader. Don't try to impress people with your use of the language. Don't try to reinvent the wheel. Be consistent so that each page reads the same way and that your goal becomes exactly the same. All right. Organized and clutter-free. And you're going to see that clearly today. Avoid big blocks of text. You don't see that as much on the pages that we're going to talk about today. So we're not going to get into that as much, but we are going to review some principles to get to that point. We're not going to let our headlines float. We talked about float last week and how that float is when I have a headline that's not connected to anything, that it doesn't have a purpose, that leads to nowhere, that it's not connected to the paragraphs. Use short paragraphs, use bullet points, highlight the key terms. And then a principle that I brought over from my days when I taught English: write neat, eliminate as many words as possible. And generally a simple rule is 50% of words can go. And I find myself doing that all the time. I'll go back and, oh, those 3 words don't belong in that sentence, and I'll remove them. And I keep getting it smaller and smaller. And the cool thing is that that's the thing that we should be doing. And I gave you a little chart last week, talked about the If you want something to be understood and clearly comprehended, keep your words in the sentence at about 8. Gave you this little process I used to use with my students. Give me 7 pages, and then I would give it back to them and say, now narrow that down to 7 paragraphs. Now narrow that down to 7 sentences, and then narrow it down to 7 words. And I took those 7 words, and that's what we built everything around, those 7 words. Now, 7 is an arbitrary number, but you understand the principle behind that, correct? Does that make sense to everybody? How many of you saw that as a challenge and decided, hey, I can do that? I should do that. Constantly paring things down. Designing for mobile, we're going to talk about that just a little bit today. Hey, Pete, good to see you. We're going to talk about designing for mobile a little bit today. Keep in mind that the majority of your readers are going to see your page on a mobile device, and so make it easy for them, and then kind of keep that in mind as you build out your page, and it'll help you drastically. And then we addressed this question, do I need a funnel? And we talked about what does a funnel look like using your home page. And so my funnel on my home page was to get somebody to book a time. I wanted an appointment. I want them to get on a call with me. That was my funnel. Then when they do that, they're taken to a page where they may get a quiz. They might get a survey. They might get just a simple question asked. Are you ready to launch your business, or are you in the ideation stage? So all of those things are important, and that's a part of a funnel. And then the end result is to get them on a call. But then also, and I have to remind you of this all the time because we fail to teach people how important this is that your email becomes an engine that drives a tremendous amount of engagement on your site. Okay? Now, the 3 pages that we're going to focus on today are the services page. What is it that you do? And how do those services come into play for the benefit of the person who found you on the homepage? Then the next thing you want them to do is to take a look at your services, okay? And whatever those services are, now keep, again, back to my rule of 3, keep that down to about 3 things. You can create 3 larger categories, but you can make those really easy for people to understand and follow. Yeah, I see that. That's Rob said many sites now have 2 links. One is a desktop and one is a mobile link. I do that with I actually do that with a link tracker that allows if the person is opening it up on a mobile device, it will give them a different look. But you should have a fully responsive site by in today's world. There should be a fully responsive site so that it's easy for people to read, regardless of whether it's on a mobile device or on a laptop. But the service page should be simple. Again, what should the images be about on the service page? Somebody remind me. We're going to break one open here in just a little bit. We're going to take a look at it. But what should your services be about? Or what should your images, remember we talked about the importance of the images. What should your images be about on your services page? Yeah, I like that, Em. Thank you for reminding us of that. It should be about the before and after, not necessarily the process, because sometimes the process can be grueling. But it should include people. It should be about what's the word that we use to describe our potential customer? We have a special name for them. What is it? Your customer hero, exactly. It should be about your customer hero, and the imagery that you use should be your customer hero. And you should actually be able to see that clearly illustrated in the imagery that you use on your services page. So we'll talk about services page when we get to out of the agenda this morning. There's an about page. And again, the about page is one of those things where you may or may not. Now, in my case, the about page, I am the product. So an image of me makes sense here. It doesn't make sense anywhere else, but it makes sense here because I'm the product. And you want to be able to illustrate the product. A product's different than the services. Y'all understand that? So we have the about page, and we'll talk about the about page and what should be on that about page, and we'll show where to get the information for that about page. I don't know if you can see this or not, but there are 3 words clearly delineated on this page, and it's the vision, the mission, and the principles. And where did we get those from? Anybody remember where we got those from? You should not have to write this off the top of your head when you're creating the about page. It comes from that worksheet, your brand brief, your strategy, your brand strategy page, and then your brand brief. That's where you get that information from. Now you may expound on it, but that's what should drive these. So all of these pieces are starting to fit together, right? Do you see how all of this kind of comes together and comes into play? Everybody seeing how that works? See why we've gone through this process to get from there to here? And then the final page, the contact us page. And in this particular illustration, this contact us has a physical location, and the physical location can be helpful. Some of us who are coaches, consultants, graphic artists, those kinds of people don't necessarily want to have a map to our house. That might not be the thing you want to have out in the public, but a map to your location makes perfect sense. And so you want to modify that contact information so that it accomplishes the purpose that you want. Okay. All right. Everybody understand what it is that we're doing and where we're going and how we're going to get there. Today, we're going to finish those other 3 pages so that you have a total of 4 on your website. All right. How many of you got your homepage done? And if we opened up the homepage today and we took a look at it, it would have those elements we talked about last week. How many of you are at that stage? I'm waiting. It's confession time. All right, what we're going to do then is we're going to jump over here. We're going to take a look at the next thing. So give me a second to make a change to my screen. And we should be able to do that without losing anybody in the process, hopefully. So, bring that up. All right, did y'all make the trip with me? Do you see my brand strategy or my brand strategy there at the top? All right. Hey, Robin, glad you could make it. All right. Now we have the brand strategy and we have this brand doc that we created that can help us to get the content that we're going to need, keeping this in mind as we do this. And then we have laid out here our vision, our mission, our principles. We have the logos. We have all of the rest of the content for this. Okay. Everybody with me? So those are the 2 documents that you will need. You may have some things on one that you need to have on the other one, and it'll be easy for you to pull those pieces together. But if you have both of them, it'll be really easy for you to be able to pull those pieces together. So let's go back to, let's take a look at, these are the 3 illustrations that we have. Now, the first thing that I notice is that these are pretty plain and pretty generic, but what's the one characteristic that each of them have? This one, not necessarily, but and again, I'm a little disappointed this one doesn't have one too, but here we clearly have a call to action, right? We have a button, we have a place where people can take action. Hey, Michelle. All right, so we have those two documents. Let's go through here and let's start to break this down, okay? This was the homepage for my website that we looked at last week. And remember, we were building my website so that y'all could get an example of how you do this in real time. And so let me change my screen size here just a little bit. See if we can't make that easier for everybody to see. All right. Now, I have a specific target market. This is people who are leaving their corporate job, right? And my target market is over the age of 55, people who've left their corporate world at the age of 55. So that was my story. These were my subheadlines that were here. And you notice there's about 3 paragraphs and a subheading. There's about 3 paragraphs and a subheading. And you try to maintain that so it's easy for people to read and to follow through. Okay, frequent call to action. Now we're going to focus our attention on these buttons across the top up here. All right, the About Us, the Contact Us, and the Services. Let's talk about the About Us first. So that'll be the first one that we'll go to. All right, now this is about the business. The business is called Eric Said. And what's this right here? And where did that come from? Did I take that from my brand strategy? Y'all have looked at my brand strategy over and over and over again. So did this come from my brand strategy? Let's go back over and take a look. See that right there? That was in my positioning statement. What would you want to have at the beginning of an about us page? Would you want to have that positioning statement at the beginning of your About Us page? Do you see why that becomes important? And this is where we're going to use it. We're going to use it on the About Us page. So the first thing that you see is this statement right here, which is taken from my brand doc right here, right? Now, let's begin to break this down. My statement is simple makes awesome easy, but for some reason, an insulting thing for me has always been keep it simple, stupid, or keep it simple, however you want to phrase that. Simplicity requires brilliance, not stupidity. So keeping it simple is brilliant, not stupid. And so what do we have next? These 3 things right here, right? Now, the only reason why I have a picture here is because I am the what? Remind me again what that is. I'm the product. So I use an image of me here because I'm the product. All right. So now here we're going to use our vision, our mission, and our principles as we had created them in the brand doc, right? So you go back over here to the brand doc and you'll see those very things right here. This is my vision. Why does Eric Said exist? I want to explain to people why this company exists, why this business exists. It's in business to provide a value to other people. What is that value? So that's where I'm going to take this vision statement over here, and then we're going to bring it to life right here. Right? This is the one case where it's okay to say what you do. Now, do you see the value of those 3 things right here? We're making it clear what it is that we do. And then what happens? What follows that? We have a call to action that follows that. Are these quick and easy paragraphs to read? This is what an About Us page should look like. Keep things very simple. Keep them brief. Remember those principles that we talked about at the beginning? Things should be obvious. They should be obvious. My focus is simplicity. It should be obvious. So we make everything easy for people to get. The other thing is that the text is large, so it looks really good on a mobile device. It looks really good wherever you happen to find it. All right. Took this statement right here. We took that from right over here. All right. We took this from what is Ed looking for? And we addressed this right here. His concern about taking his business online is that the world has changed. It might be more difficult than he thought. Or he might have thought it was going to be simple and then got his toes stubbed, right? So we address that in the next statement, all right? Because I'm the product, at some place I have to talk about my background. I kind of liked throwing this over here. All right. All right. Any questions about that? Do you understand what we've done? Have we done exactly the same thing that you see right here? Have we done the same thing? Slightly different format, same thing, right? Any questions about the About Us page? I would do exactly the same thing for the store. Ken's asking a question about how would this apply to a store? I would do exactly the same thing. A store should have a vision. A store should have a mission, and the store should have principles by which they operate. Now, the vision might be, Robin, there's a place to do that. Let me finish the question with Ken, and then I'll come back to that. Robin's asked the question, if you had a team, would you profile each person on the team? I have a team, so I'll address that from my perspective in just a minute. These are three components that you will have in a store, Ken. So these will definitely be in your store. Your vision might be to provide the best service, okay? It might be to provide the best service. It might be to provide the best product available in the marketplace. That might be the vision. The mission would be that we warehouse we don't drop ship, we warehouse everything and then we ship it out in the same box or something like that. Or we make it really easy. Hang on to that question, Edison. It's a great question. I'll talk about that in just a second. But this, I would do exactly the same thing for the store. And I would put up here that we help whatever that store niche is, because if it's whatever it is, whatever that niche is, if it were vitamin supplements, we help people who are interested in better health through supplements and get the results, and you would apply all of that there. But then you would give them the mission. I'm sorry, the vision, the mission, and the principles that are associated with that. And you would have exactly those same things over here in this when you created your brand doc, you should have those exact same things that are there. Now, let me address Robin's question. If you have a team, would you profile each member on the team? That may or may not be a necessity. I have a team. Matter of fact, I have a very competent team. I have people on my team who are more capable than I am. But the piece that holds it all together is me. And I have actually trained that team so that they can run without me. And I do that on purpose. Do I need to list all of them here? No. I don't need to list all of them here. Would I have a link to them? Maybe. What we do instead is we make introductions. So each client that I have gets introduced to the people on the team, and we take whoever that team member is that's going to work with them. Would we do a group photo? That's much more challenging in today's world because very few of us have a team that all exist, rarely even in the same state. So that can become challenging, Rob. If you have a store, I would definitely do that. If I have a physical location where everybody works in that same physical location, yes, I would definitely do a group photo. I would make it a fun photo. Realtors are a little different. Realtors are a team of individuals, and so it's a little bit different than that. I used to jokingly say I would never put my picture on anything, and then I would see realtors that would put their picture on things, and I would see insurance agents put their picture on things, and I think, that might not be a bad idea. So I think that's important to display that. I have another question here. To a network marketing funnel. We're going to talk about funnels in a little bit, Edison, probably even a little bit today. But a network marketing funnel would be, and back to that, and I don't have it so I can share that screen, but that little funnel that I had earlier, this exact same thing would work in a network marketing situation where if I had them simply go to if I had them click on this right here and schedule an appointment, okay? So if they scheduled an appointment, then what would happen is after they've scheduled that appointment, they get put into an email list and we take them. So we basically are creating a funnel out of that. And each of those things would work exactly the same way. All right. The thing is, we don't have to reinvent the wheel for everything. We're just simply taking people through the process. All right. Does that kind of answer all three of those questions? I want to make sure we address that before we move on. Any questions? Okay. Let me explain something. Okay. I had that little pause right there. That was my daughter sending me a text message. In these days, she gets my top priority. Okay. Just so you know. Sorry about the pause though. Okay. So if I've answered and addressed those questions, that is, why is my icon a downward symbol? That's a really good question because it's intended to be a download symbol. All right. And I've been playing with that. And Robin has asked a really good question. I've built my entire career on doing things that cause people to ask questions. Does that make sense? But what we're doing is we're downloading all of the things that you need so that you have it. But yeah, I've built my entire career based upon doing things that cause people to ask questions. And so I threw that, I kind of like that download image. So I threw that in there. Most people recognize that as a download image. All right. Are we good with the About Us page? You're all ready to build your own About Us page. You know where you're going to get the information from. You're going to use both of these documents, your brand strategy document over here where we've listed these things out, and maybe you need to flesh it out a little bit more using your brand doc, but you have that information available to you. Okay, so that's the About Us page. The next page across this menu, remember we're using these normal conventions. I have almost 300 pages on my website. How many do I have listed here? My website contains almost 300 pages. Do I need to put all of them on the things that are obvious to people? No. I have a total of 4. Again, don't make me think. What we're going to do instead is we're going to drive traffic to those other pages. We're going to fulfill promises in those other pages. Some of those other pages are as who asked the question? I got it. As Edison asked, some of those other pages are about networking. Some of those other pages are about training. Some of those other pages are about funnels. Some of those other pages fulfill other purposes. But I'm going to drive traffic to those pages, and I'm going to use a blog to do that with. And I'm not even going to list my blog on the front page. Instead, I'm going to use the blog as the way to drive the traffic. Okay. So we've done the About Us page. Let's talk about the services page next. And again, we have, this is not necessarily something that you may have over here. You may not have your fulfillment of your promise over here. Now, I have some of these things here. This right here, where did that come? Where did this come from? Anybody remember? Yeah, came from the brand brief. Let's take a look over here and see if we can find it. Right there. Under these values, principles, and brand affirmations, this statement came from there. I drive traffic to the blog. Rob's asking, how do you get the blog? How do you get to the blog without a tab being displayed? I drive traffic to the blog. I don't want people to get distracted. I want people to do one thing. I want them to get on a call with me. That's all I want. When they find the website, that's what I want. I want them to get on a call with me. And whether that's from a podcast. I had a bunch of podcasts that were published over the last couple of months, and not my podcast, but interviewed by other podcasts, and all of that's intended to drive traffic to that front page so somebody can get on a call with me. That's my intention. Now, what I post on social media, what I share with my email people, that's where I drive that traffic to my blog, because my blog will introduce them to other programs, platforms, training, products, things that I have. Okay, I use the blog to do that with. I want to keep these pages as clean and neat as I possibly can. So I've taken this statement, wherever it went, I've taken this statement right here, and it's the first thing that appears here, right? Everybody follow why you have to have those statements there? What I'm going to say, Stephen's going to make people's hair catch on fire. If you're depending on SEO rank, period, you're probably going to be in trouble. In my space, I will never be able to compete with Tony Robbins or a Neil Patel, or people who do things similar to the way that I do them. So I'm competing for things that are really difficult to compete with. All right, so we're going to put that statement at the beginning, and we took it from right down here, and we're going to put that at on the services page. Again, I'm emphasizing when I use that phrase "too complicated." What am I doing? What's my tagline? So by doing that, am I creating consistency across those 4 pages? Now, earlier in today, we talked about taking the 7 pages, 7 paragraphs, 7 sentences to 7 words. And then I said, you build everything around those 7 words. Well, mine was 4 words, simple makes awesome easy. And I build everything around those 4 words. Does that make sense? And you're, as Stephen said, you're being consistent throughout all the things that you do. You're either talking about not making things too complicated or how you can make things simple. Now, it's very important on the support services, and that's what we provide. We provide support services. That's different than the person who's providing a store or somebody who is involved in network marketing. We're providing a support service. That's what we're, a business support service. That's what we do. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to list are support services. And I'm going to limit this to 3. And I put those 3 into categories. Now, I've already addressed those. That one of the ways that we do that is we do that through coaching and training. And we build systems and we provide office support. Right? Those are in this document. Right here. Right? And right here, complex technology by providing back office support, tech solutions, and training. Are you with me? That's the reason why these are so important. You go back over here, and what do you see? Now, I've given them a different title here, right? I've used this phrase, reinvention coaching, right here to describe that person who's entering into the business world, having come from the corporate world, right? What are they doing? They're reinventing themselves. This is another possibility. We help them to build systems so that they can scale their business. If you're going to scale your business, it requires reproducible systems. And then I remind them again, we've talked about this on the homepage, systems that you had when you were in your corporate position. Is that helpful to people? Do you understand why it's very important to have clarity about that? Hang on a second, Stephen. I think you'll like my next picture. I'm going to scroll down the page. And then one of the things that we did was back office support. We provide the tech for the back office support. We're not an accounting office. We don't do HR. We don't do that, but we provide a tech back office. Okay. And this is language coming from the corporate world. Everybody's aware of this. Are y'all following along here? Now, Stephen asked the question earlier, is this a before picture? Watch, I think you'll get this when I scroll to the next part of the page. What do you see? So we kind of have a before picture, and then what do we have? We have a happy after picture, right? Actually, this person might be a lot older than you think, so don't be careful with that. Now, I'm still figuring out exactly how I want to how I want to phrase this, and I'm playing with the language here, but I can run with it the way that it is. Okay. Now, what's this first word right here? Or first words? What does it look like this guy's doing? He's got his coat thrown over his shoulder, right? The only reason why I don't like this statement is because I don't like to lead with a negative. But in this case, the only way I could figure out how I wanted to write it was to lead with a negative. All right. But does that make sense to everybody? Do you understand what we're doing on that services page? Edison's asked a really good question. This has to do with mobile devices. You're exactly right, Kim. We're just going to we're going to reinvent that usefulness in a different in a slightly different arena. Edison's question is: sometimes I have the picture placed on the left, sometimes and the text on the right. Is it just a matter of choice, or is there a strategy behind where you place on the left or on the right? And that's a really, really good question. Let me I was going to show you a screenshot of this. Yeah, if you follow your passion, you'll be incredibly frustrated. I mean, when you get to be my age, you realize that was a really ridiculous thing to do. And I know, because I'm still paying off the debt from that. Okay. You can have a passion, but your usefulness is the thing that's important. All right. Okay, let me address Edison's question for just a minute. Okay, I'm looking at, and I meant to screenshot this and give this to you, and I forgot. So I'm looking at this page is built in a block and widget designed page builder. Okay, and the way that the mobile device reads this is that it reads from left to right. So because these are two blocks that are in the same plane, what happens is this image appears first and then the text, and then along with the call to action button. Then this image appears and then the text. And when you look at that on a mobile device, it actually makes more sense doing it that way than it does if you're just scrolling through it like this. So to answer your question, Edison, I designed that specifically with my mobile readers in mind. Understand? Because when I'm looking at this on a mobile device, this is the first image that I see. This image, then I see this text, then I see this image, then I see this text. Now, what you saw earlier Art says if I narrow my browser. What I do instead is I just have a whole pocket full of, but that does work. Cool. All right. So this is the way it appears on a mobile device. See that? Now, do you understand the logic behind that? Gosh, Art, you just helped me drastically. What's the first thing that they see? They see this right here. All right. Take my hand, hear me say, take the next step in the journey. And what do you see? See somebody pondering that, right? Thank you, Art. And then down here, we have the text. Then right here, what do we have? Make sense? So I do design that with the mobile device in mind. And you can see that, in fact, is the hero journey as we do that, right? Is that clear? So that leaves us with one more page. And that one more page is the contact page. I'm about to address that, Robin. So that's a really, really good question. We go to the contact us page. First thing I want to do in that contact page is I want to eliminate any question that contacting me is a problem. Right here, okay? I don't know how many more ways to say contact us. You've got schedule a time, schedule an appointment, contact us, get in touch. You're first in our book. See that? Now I'm going to address Robin's question. But I want to make sure y'all are with me. I may change that to send us a message. What happened is that we have weird time zones going around the world right now, Mark. So I apologize for that. But we are always at 10 o'clock Eastern time, whatever time zone, whatever is going on in the United States, we follow that time. Demio jacks it up because I share this platform with Bertrand, who used it last, and so it switches everything to the last time zone that it was in and sends that out based upon that, which has Central European time has not switched to daylight savings time. I don't even know if they do. I don't speak time zone, but that's what happened. All right, so this is my contact page. All right, got option here. And then down here, I'm just reminding them you can contact us anytime from anywhere. See, that's why I don't try to keep track of him. I don't speak time zone. Thank you, Gene. I appreciate that. Anytime, any place from any page, you can contact us. Anytime, including sending us a text message. Yeah, whoever asked that question earlier, was that M? This is a special text message. It's not my phone number. It's not my phone number. It's a special text message. So I have a way to send an email over here. All right. And I have a way to send a text message over here. And I explain the fact that one of them may be faster than the other one. Because what happens with a text message? I get it immediately. What happens with an email? I have to find the email and open it up. So that's the contact page. Does that make sense to everybody? You may have a physical location, you might have an address, you might have other reasons to do that. Now, I do both the text message and the email, and the email is actually a live chat. It does go to my phone. The problem with that is that the only people who can text me are people in the US. I have it blocked from everywhere else because I don't want to pay for expensive text, and they don't want to have to pay to text internationally either. So that leaves them with this option over here. Most of my clients are in the US though, so that's really not an issue. This is live chat during the day. But it is not live chat all the time. Text message, I get all text messages because of family and kids and grandkids and the rest of the stuff in the world. The one I use is Text Magic, but I did that because I really prefer to get a text message. I can answer your question immediately. There's no back and forth. There's a back and forth with the text message, but it's immediate. So that's the 3 pages that supports your homepage. You have a homepage, about us, contact us, and services page. All right. And the contact us is literally on every page on my site, regardless of where you are. And like I said, I have a whole bunch of others that are there. And there's lots and lots and lots of services that can do those things. I have a calendaring system that we had created to do this with. Actually, that one's going. That's not turned on yet. But right here, that creates that. So we've tested out a voicemail message. And we're testing that because there are some people who just would prefer to leave a voicemail message. And that's possible too. So we do all of that. All right. Any questions? When you slide this over here, it becomes really obvious the answer to your question, Robin. Right here, it's right there. Okay. But again, minimal number of pages here, even though I have a very, very robust number of pages everywhere else. You drive traffic to that. You use your blog to drive traffic to that. You share those things on your social media platforms with your email list, those kinds of things. No, I don't use Convertry to create my web page. The reason is really simple. Convertry was never designed to create web pages. Now, I think the last time I counted, I have 400 pages on Convertry, but I want to have that immediate mobile activity without having to work my butt off. Yeah, I know. I realize I said it that way. I have all kinds of pages that I've created in Convertry. Any other questions before we wrap up, because we're out of time? Now, somebody was supposed to contact me when we get off. Sheila, that's who was supposed to contact me. And again, any of the rest of you, remember, go to rebranding, or ericsaid.com rebranding. And from there, you can send me, and guess what? Both of these things are also on there, as well as this right here. So if you have questions during the week, you get stuck, stumped, whatever, let me know. Okay. And the same goes for you, Sheila. You're welcome to reach out to me in those ways as well. I actually prefer that over Facebook Messenger. All right. Thank you all for joining us. Remember, next week, regardless of what kind of communication that you get, we're going to start at 10 o'clock Eastern time. And if they change to, I don't know, crisis management mode time system, we're still meeting at exactly the same time. Okay.